There, I see you. Hi. Okay, ready? Go. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Wine Wednesday with the Whisperer. This week, I hope to goodness that anybody watching has had a better week than I have. It's just been a really terrible week. And so this Wine Wednesday is one of those where I'm just showing up. I said I'd be here. Here I am. There, I see you. Hi. Oh, God. Okay. Ready? We can't do this. All right, here we go. Hang on. I know what's wrong there. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Wine. All right, sorry about that. Okay, back to the plan here. Anyhow, so what we're going to do is just, Lucy and I were speaking before the show, and we have some great ideas about some upcoming shows where we're going to have some really cool people on and allow you to ask questions and so on. But as I said, we just didn't get it done this week, so we're here to hang out, wine it up, and chat if you would like to. As far as the wine this week, I literally told Sean to just run out and grab me something because I'm telling you, this week's just been like, I wish I could erase it. And so he got Essential Red, Boggle Vineyards. It's nothing to write home about, but it's not terrible, so you know I'm good with it. So welcome to Wine Wednesday. Okay. Anyhow, if we are on Facebook, Lucy's going to be monitoring the old comments and chats, kind of. We can see her in the background a little bit, but so what I thought we'd talk about today are the most frequently asked questions, because I know that a lot of people want to keep seahorses, but they think that they think it'll be too difficult. And so there are a lot of places popping up, groups on Facebook, websites. There are a lot of places you can go for information, and things are getting better, but a lot of people just still consider seahorses too hard to keep. And I had a fascinating discussion with someone who's going to be a guest soon enough on Wine Wednesday. But we were talking about what's different now versus, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, when seahorses were so hard to keep. And, we can go over some just basic frequently asked questions, but I just wanted to cover the reasons that I think people have such a much easier time today taking care of seahorses. For instance, if you are on my Facebook, Instagram, or any of those, Seahorse Whisperer is my tag, of course, you will see the orange and yellow Cuda seahorses that I just got. And I kind of posted and showed that literally in a bag, they were brightly colored. They came from Seahorse Source, and they literally were eating within 10 seconds after I took them out of the bag. They're doing fantastic in quarantine. And I had a lot of comments like, how did you do that? What, how come when I got seahorses, it was such a hard time? And the bottom line is because when you're dealing with captive bred seahorses, it's so much different than what they were dealing with, the wild caught seahorses or imported seahorses that people were getting 10, 20 years ago. Eating right off the gate is one of the main benefits, because these seahorses are trained on frozen foods. They are used to living in a tank. We've talked on this channel, Lucy and I, often about the fact that if you get a seahorse that is not used to being in a tank, it gets stressed out. Stress is what leads to problems. That's the big key, is keeping your seahorses stress-free, and then they don't get sick. And if they're just used to living in an aquarium, then they don't get as stressed. I mean, of course, shipping's stressful, but it's just much less stressful, if that makes sense. From coming, from one tank to another versus, hi, freshwater freak. Freshwater fish freak. Feel free to join. One more laid back Wine Wednesday before we get serious. Ray finally got on, but I don't know how the hell you did it. Well, welcome. We don't have a special guest today, so we're just chatting. Sorry for all the ums. Lucy and I'm going to repeat myself here real quick for anybody tuning in, but we have been talking a lot about how we are going to be sure to have a guest every week from now on and have some really interesting topics to talk about. It's just been one of those months, I should actually say, instead of weeks, where nothing went right. And, we got to clean the slate and start over. That's all we can do. And so, what we're talking about is why seahorses are easier to keep today. Your name is a lie. Okay. Why seahorses are so much easier to keep today, and then just like frequently asked questions that people often don't know or want to know, and that they seem to ask a lot. In the Seahorse Sources group on Facebook, he has a topic of the day where he covers where they cover a question that most people ask and try to provide their best answer and let other people give their opinions, and it's very interesting. And so that's kind of what we're doing tonight, is just, if you have a question, we're just gonna talk about it, and that's about the size of it for today. And then we'll go back to special guests next week. We've got upcoming events that we need to get our guests on about. We've got to talk about MACNA. We've got to talk more about MBI. Just didn't get it done. So anyhow, back to the point. And Lucy, you can pipe in anytime you want, but I was just making the point that captive bred seahorses are probably, in my mind, the number one reason why seahorses are easier to keep today. Because you're buying a seahorse that's already eating frozen foods, already used to living in a tank, won't have some of the parasites and pathogens that come on a wild seahorse sometimes. And they're just, they're conditioned to live in an aquarium. So it's just a lot easier on us today than it was on people trying to keep seahorses 10, 20 years ago. I feel so grateful to those people like Ray who went through experimenting and trying to keep seahorses. And Ray, if you do want to jump on, feel free. If it doesn't work out, oh well, but if you can maybe tell us how hard it was to keep seahorses back then. But in addition to tutorial for dummies, no, you're fine, Ray, and I'll walk you through getting on in just a second. And I would love for you to come on and tell how your experience has changed over the past 10 to 20 years. But in addition to being able to buy captive bred seahorses, we have all of this equipment that we can use to keep the tanks clean, because one of the hugest parts, I would say, Lucy, you can say if you disagree, but I would say the two hardest parts to keeping a seahorse tank are making sure that they get enough and proper feedings and keeping it clean. Because the biggest problems you're going to run into are seahorses who, the tank getting too dirty because of the fact that they have to eat so often. And every time they eat, they've got little pieces coming out their gills, and it's very easy for buildup to get out of control very quickly. So the equipment that we have available today, skimmers, UVs, all macros, everything makes a tremendous difference in keeping seahorses. Don't you think, Lucy?
Yeah, I'm agree.
Yeah. What equipment, can you think of any other equipment that is really helpful besides like the skimmer? I know I always put you on the spot.
Good water circulation, because everybody think seahorse don't need too much currents or any currents, but it's untrue. They can handle pretty high currents, and if you don't have enough movement into your tank, you will have buildup of bad stuff.
Absolutely. Good point. I forgot to mention that, because we've got easier to keep captive bred seahorses that don't need all of the live foods and the conditioning that the wild caught seahorses needed 20 years ago, 10 years ago. But the main focus is keeping them fed enough, keeping them fat and happy, and still keeping the tank clean with all those extra feedings. And so Lucy is absolutely right. Most of the equipment seahorse keepers today use is very different than 10, 20 years ago, because we have all this new equipment available and we know that they can handle it. As Lucy was saying, people used to think that seahorses needed really low flow, and I think personally that that's because of the fact of where they were finding them in nature. They're found holding very still, and just, really they're ambush predators, so they hold very still and then snatch their food. And so you see that and all they have is the little pectoral fins and the little dorsal fin. That's it, and this big old body. And so, of course, people assumed that they couldn't handle low or high flow because you don't want them going all over the tank and all over crazy. But now we know they can handle quite a bit. You don't want them pushed against walls, of course, but the benefit to being able to provide flow in a tank is, as Lucy said, it helps to keep all of the buildup from building up. So we've got these seahorses that are eating all the time, and we're trying to keep up with maintenance, and the equipment is a huge help, and the flow is a huge help. So keeping wave makers or power heads or something like that in the tank is very helpful. And the seahorses actually, I believe, enjoy it. There was a research paper that I was just reading about how, they're coming up with all this new information that we just didn't know about seahorses. Eating all the time. Hi, Ray. And hey, don't forget, go up to your tab at the top of your computer. Help. And the flow.
I need to adjust the camera here.
So you're fine. Or power heads or something like that in the tank is very helpful. And the seahorses actually, I believe, enjoy what you have to do, Ray, is go up to the very top, and you have to mute right click on the tab that shows the YouTube or the Facebook and mute it. Hey, don't forget, go up to your tab at the top of your computer. And I can hear myself saying it. Woohoo. Did that make sense? Or power head, something like that. Because what it's doing is the computer is picking up what I just said and replaying it. So you have to mute the site.
Just mute YouTube.
Mute YouTube. On the tab that shows the YouTube or the Facebook, and mute it. Hey, don't forget, go up to your tab at the top of your computer. If you have, actually, Ray, to be completely honest, the best way to do this is to close all your other tabs. And just not watch it on Facebook, and just not watch it. Just stay in the conversation with me and Lucy. If you close all the other ones, there will be no repeat. Anyways, I'm going to keep talking. I think he's figuring it out because I don't hear myself repeating back. And it's cool because we're laid back and we want people to come and join. So whatever's going on is going on. Hey, Annette. Hi to anyone if I miss you joining. Hi, Melanie. Hi everybody. And so again, we're just talking about how much easier seahorses are to keep today and why. Ray, once he gets it figured out, can tell us why they, what he thinks as to, because he was around when they were more difficult, when you were getting wild caught. He still has trouble because where he's from, where he lives, getting captive bred seahorses and getting the things that he needs to take care of them. So
never ever had wild caught here.
You've never had?
Nope.
How were you getting captive bred way back when you first started?
Very first ones I had were from a fellow in Guelph, a couple hours or maybe an hour and a half drive away. And I think I connected with him from one of the forums that I was on at the time. And I don't remember now which one, because I think I first talked to him in 2002.
Wow.
But after that, I had some Australian seahorses that I was able to get through a fish store that they had Angustus and Barbary and there's another one too, but my mind just doesn't come up with it right now.
No, that's okay.
And then I imported a lot of years ago now, but I imported from Seahorse Corral, brought in 100 seahorses, and sold them to people that I had taken pre-orders for. And the ones that were left over, there was a store in Markham, Ontario that took the last ones off my hand, so I didn't have to overstock here, and I just kept 6 for myself. But and then from that order that I placed, there is now a company called Seahorse Canada, and they bought 6 off me, and they went into business, and they've been breeding the Erectus ever since.
That's awesome. See, you were part of the solution, really. You were part of helping captive breeding along. Why do you go ahead?
So many seahorses coming into stores, and people were buying them, and they were dying.
Yep.
They couldn't keep them alive. And I even tried some from a store. It was Combs, and they didn't last a month, as far as I can recall now. But that's a long time ago.
Well, sure. Well, still, the stores these days, I've noticed, most of them have caught on. That people, you know, because I do understand from a vendor's perspective, back then, it was going to be a lot less expensive for even the customers and for them if they were able to buy an inexpensive imported or, you know, wild caught seahorse and just resell it. That's, you know, that's what they did. That's what they did. But now that they understand that keeping them alive and that people want their seahorses to last and that buying captive bred, you know, will allow that. I know Dan, when I talked to Dan, he said he could tell the trend, you know, because as soon as one store bought his seahorses and realized, whoa, they stay alive. Oh my gosh, you know, they stay alive and our customers are happy and that, you know, that we can keep them long enough to sell them, then all the stores started jumping on board. So I really honestly think that most stores carry captive bred nowadays. Am I wrong, guys?
Yeah, but around here, most of them are captive bred, but
Right.
they're Asian imports and raised in those big cement vats with ocean water. And as far as I'm concerned, I really don't believe they're properly filtering it and treating the water before it's being used for the seahorses. So from that aspect, they may as well just keep the darn stuff throwing them in the ocean.
Right. I mean,
They're still going to end up all the same parasites.
very good point. Very good point. And that's one thing that I've talked with many people about is the difference between net pen raised, that they call tank raised. They call them captive bred. They're not the same as what we consider captive bred. And there's many different ways to look at it, because the aquarium hobby is not the only people who want seahorses. And so I think there's a place for the net pen raised, you know, maybe Chinese medicine or, you know, something. I just think that for the hobby, we definitely should stick with truly captive bred by a breeder, you know, in sterile conditions. Ray, how do you think we could differentiate? How do you tell people when they go to the store? How do you tell them to find out if the seahorse is truly captive bred?
I don't think we can have much luck there, especially now that things have gone to Facebook and so on. Little traffic on the forums, but on the forums, I always posted my definition of a true captive bred. And to me, a true captive bred was one raised in captivity with either saltwater mix or with properly filtered and treated ocean water. And so if you're getting these Asian imports, I never yet found any that did that. There was one that I got some re-dye from one time. I can't remember the name of it now. Dan told me that they were probably the best one to get anything from. And the re-dye that I got from them were successful, and I've sold an awful lot of the fry off to other stores and that. But problem was they ended up becoming too successful. So it got so hard, first of all, to get some decent juveniles in. They started sending them out when they're only 2.5, 3 months old.
Oh,
And
geez.
course, then the success rate went down the tubes. And, so they're a victim of their own success. They ended up, they were selling so many, they were, what do you call it, jobbing out, having other companies produce for them
Mm-hmm.
To augment their sales. And they probably made a lot of money for a while, but sooner or later, at least around here, the stores quit bringing them in anymore from that company.
Right. Well, right. Well,
So they killed themselves, really.
yeah. I mean, that's, exactly. So let me just ask you.
Unfortunately, there are still other companies that are supplying stores, and I'm not sure if it's a changing situation, different companies here or there, but the stores keep buying and people keep buying and seahorses keep dying. And we can't reach them. Most of the people that are buying from a store, they aren't associated with any seahorse forum. They aren't on following Facebook groups
Mm-hmm.
related to horses. So, I don't know of any way you're going to reach those people.
Well, it seems like we'd have it. I mean, because that's one of the things that I try to promote is captive breeding. It's hard when you do see all the different angles. Actually, that's one of my problems is I get overwhelmed with knowing almost too much at this point, and I'm saying it wrong. I'm going to stop. Anyways, the point is, it seems like you'd have to reach them through the stores, and I know I hear your opinion, and I know that you have a voice and a point, but I feel like a lot of the stores are coming around. I just feel like they are. I know that all the stores around me, when I told them I bred seahorses, they wanted to know the details. They wanted to know how I was breeding them, how they were raised. They wanted to know, make sure I was, doing it the right way. And then they wanted to buy them because they sell captive bred and they can get in imported if someone needs them. But in their display shelves, they carry captive bred. So I really thought that things were getting better, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe down the States they are, but they sure aren't here in Canada.
Well, the one way to be sure, of course, the one way to always be sure is to buy from a breeder. Buy direct, and then you're good. You know what you're getting. But then you get into...
Here it's hard, too, because as an individual, I can't ship seahorses to somebody.
Why not?
Couriers won't take them.
Oh.
You have to go through an expensive program. First of all, you have to sign up to guarantee so many dollars worth of business a month. And then even before you can do that, you have to do up a package like you're going to ship them, and they have to put it through extensive testing. But like even on the scale that I was at, for me to ship, say, a dozen seahorses to Montreal, it still wasn't going to be something that was going to happen once a week to justify the expense in maintaining that monthly level that they had to have.
Right.
Without that monthly level, I imagine if you dickered with them, they'd probably allow you to do it if you meet all their testing and that, but the cost would be prohibitive.
Right.
What I ended up doing was arranging with a store here that I had a long association with, and I would have him ship them for me.
Well, I mean, whatever works. I know that it's very hard to be a small time breeder for absolute sure. What I don't know if you've seen, but I've been watching the progress of Seahorse how do you say that, Lucy? Is it Savvy Seahorse or Seahorse Savvy?
Savvy? Seahorse Savvy?
Seahorse Savvy. I always get it backwards. But Alyssa and Kyle are doing awesome, awesome things, putting this ridiculously beautiful, state-of-the-art facility together, and I can't wait to see it finished because it's going to be amazing, and I can't wait to see the species they come out with. But it's definitely a lot more difficult for someone like you, Ray, who's trying to do it as an individual.
Yeah, at my age, there's no point in my getting into it in a big way. I could be gone tomorrow. But
Well, that's
right now, I'm with the two that I have here, the two species. I'd be willing to go out, especially the barbs, because they don't produce a lot in the way of fry, and it's within my physical capability to handle at the moment. So I wouldn't mind doing just to be doing it a bit now. But I'm not going to get into it to the extent that it was years ago with the reed eye and the rectus.
exactly. Actually, that's exactly what I decided. I know Lucy breeds dwarfs. Is it dwarfs or yeah, dwarfs? Lucy breeds dwarfs. Sorry. I breed anything that has babies, but I do it for me. And I don't really sell them often. People approach me all the time, and I usually send them to one of the established breeders. And I'm kind of finding that my place is going to be just promoting the message and bringing people here onto Wine Wednesday to share new information and do these interviews. Lucy and I were talking about some really cool people that we can have on that can help anybody along the way. But it's really difficult if you're trying to become a breeder. People don't realize what all is involved with breeding seahorses. Cheryl Taylor, who comes to the show often and is on Facebook, she's an amazing breeder. People don't even usually know her name. I'm so glad I know her name because she's amazing. But and she chooses to do things her own way. I'm not saying she couldn't do things differently. I'm just saying, the main names, and you hear them and you know them, and that's who kind of do the breeding, and the rest of us can do it because we love it. And the other part is that I want to send a huge thank you to the people that did experiment with and have to try to breed and raise seahorses back 10, 20 years ago. Because if they hadn't gone through the struggles of figuring it out and figuring out how to condition these seahorses and how to breed them and how to produce, very healthy fry for the hobby, for the aquarium hobby, we'd all still be stuck in the same place. So, I'm
There went a lot of seahorses for a while, though.
Why do you think that is?
Well, because I didn't know anything about them, and there was only two forums with any information. One was Reef Central, but it was kind of limited, the amount of information that was on there. But the other one was the org that developed out of another one that was on there that David Warland was involved with.
Mm-hmm.
They had a split, and then so Seahorse.org developed out of that. And even the people that were on there didn't, at that time anyway, nobody was espousing the things that I've discovered over the years.
Mm-hmm.
But over the years, I think the things that I found, other people found also at the same time. So it wasn't any one person as an individual necessarily that found things out. But like keeping a tank clean, because back then everybody assumed if you did all these tests, nitrates and ammonia and all this stuff, if you did all that testing, then the water had to be good.
Right.
Not understanding that all those had nothing to do with the water being able to sustain increased populations of nasty bacteria. So now that we understand that, we can do something about it, like keeping the temperature down and doing far more cleaning than we used to. And the only thing that I'm trying to get on to people around here, I still believe people don't feed their tanks enough.
I was going to ask what. Well, first I want to hear about what you think about feeding. Why do you think people aren't feeding enough?
Well, because they believe what they're doing is fine. And for some of them, it may be fine, but in the long run, people are still losing seahorses. It's not always due to bacterial diseases.
No.
And, I believe it's because the frequency of feeding isn't sufficient for those because of the non-stomach. They need something much more frequent. Now you can feed this maybe the same amount of food, but do it more often. And in my book, 4 times is a minimum that I believe is best for them.
You know, I got to say, Ray, I actually agree with you for 2 reasons. First of all, because I think I've watched from when I first started with seahorses, and I've not been around as long as you have, but from the time that I started up until today, I have watched the advice go from very strict rules to, well, this is okay, and well, that's okay. And of course, there's got to be some place for different ways of doing things, of course. But there are some things that I think maybe shouldn't have been slacked on. And I'm going to have to agree with you that I think feeding is one of them. I know people have schedules, and I know that we want to make sure that everybody is able to keep seahorses, but the truth is everybody's not able to keep seahorses. They're not as difficult but as people think by far. But I do agree with you. I think feeding the amount and variety is really, really important, and I don't think that it's stressed enough, because we're so busy trying to say it's okay, you can do this, you can do that, or so many people come on and say, well, I only did it this many times, so it's cool, that it's hard. Like you said, with social media too, everybody's an expert. So it's hard to know who to listen to. So I'm very glad that people like you are still around and helping and still involved. I know on Seahorse Sources group, I've seen quite a few names that come from seahorse.org, show up in the group, and, they're watching, and hopefully they'll help and comment. But I've talked to many of them on the side, and I'm trying to do some research into something, and they say it's hard to be in the seahorse world today because it's so different. Because people are getting away with so much more. And anyways, aside from people needing to feed more often, I heard your opinion. I do agree with it. Ray, what do you think are the main reasons that we can keep seahorses alive more easily today?
Well, first of all, there's fancier filtration systems that some people spend money on to obtain. In my case, I've never had any fancy filtration systems. I've always gone with simplicity, and it worked fine with my reef tanks and everything. It didn't work fine for the seahorses at first. And still, my seahorses are fairly simple. I learned a long time ago not to use canister filters.
Mm-hmm.
I was born to be lazy. So that means a canister filter that is a pain in the ass to clean out didn't get cleaned every 3 or 4 days like I think it should be for ideal situations. Just because, I'd get frustrated at so often having to do this chore. So I tend to go with attachments on my power heads. They're called quick filters.
Mm-hmm.
They're sold for Hagen power heads. And with these quick filters, I take it off power head every couple of days or 3 days. I go down the sink, down the basement, and I've got a piece of hose there hooked up to the tap, and I've got one of these garden spray nozzles on it that's got all, you got a shower, or you got a full flow, or you got a jet. And I put it on the jet setting and blast the hell out of the cartridge piece and clean it all out, stick it back on. It's a matter of a minute or so to go downstairs and do it, and then come back up and stick it on. Whereas the canister filter, I don't remember now how long it took me to clean it out, but it was a pain.
Right. No,
And
I have one canister filter tank, and it's my least favorite for sure. I don't like them because it's easy to forget to clean them, or, you know, it's such a pain, like you said. Plus, I just think it's easy to, well, yeah, just forget that they need to be maintained, or that they, you know, out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. You forget, and I don't know, but
To be honest with you, it wasn't a case of forgetting.
mm-hmm.
I have a very bad memory, and especially right now. But back when it was the problem, it wasn't because I forgot. It was because I'd be going on and things were fine. I wasn't having any trouble, and but there was something else I'd rather be doing right now than cleaning out that canister.
Yeah,
And so I would skip it. Well, in time, you skip a few times, and eventually the water degrades to the point where then it is a problem.
yep, and it's too late.
You start looking for something that you've done recently that has caused the death of this seahorse, and it really it isn't anything you did just recently. It's something you've been doing over a period of time.
Absolutely.
Been a gradual buildup, and too many people are still looking for something they've done in the last week or two, or even a month.
Right.
Uh,
You make a great point. I mean, if you set up correctly to start, and you don't slack on things, that, I mean, that's the key.
Back on it in this hobby. If you happen to get some seahorses that are much more tolerant of pathogens of any kind,
Mm-hmm.
then that's fine. But it's like people. Everybody knows someone that is perpetually sick.
Mm-hmm.
You also know other people that hardly ever get sick. Now, seahorses are the same way. When you buy some, you have no idea when you're buying them if they're the people that are going to be perpetually sick, or if they're going to be the people that are always healthy and can tolerate all sorts of things.
Right.
So then you end up with people that do all things against a hard regime, and they're successful, and they're telling everybody they don't have to do all this other stuff because it works for them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they had those seahorses that were very tolerant of things, and then the next guy that tries it's going to have seahorses that cannot tolerate those conditions, and bingo, he loses them, or she.
Right. No, I agree with you 100%. Actually, when I started, I did want to cover frequently asked questions, but I started off by saying we have such an easier time today than maybe 10 to 20 years ago. And I was actually saying that it's because we have captive bred, more readily available. We have the equipment. I was actually just saying that before you came in and started talking about it. We have the equipment, and we know more because of research. We know that they can handle better flow. We know that they need to be fed so many times and need variety in the diet. Some people choose not to do that, but we know now, we have the information. And the fourth thing I was going to say is that information is so readily available. However, you make a very good point, Ray, in that just because you can find information much more easily, on the, whether it be you still old school and go to the forums, or you just do Google searches and come across tammysfusejob.com, which is a great website, or my website that's nowhere near finished, but I hope to be good someday, or Facebook, Seahorse Sources Group, Seahorse Keeping Made Fun, Seahorses and Pipefish. You know, there's all of these places to find information, but there's no way to know who to listen to. So, Ray, when you start seeing and hearing someone giving advice, how do you determine whether or not you should listen to them? I'm just curious.
Well, I guess that's something that's just developed over a lot of years.
Mm-hmm.
Like Dan was one of the first, once he got going. He started around the same time I did, but he went into it in a much larger scale, and he spent a lot more time doing investigation into various topics that are associated with seahorse keeping. So a lot of the stuff that I got was because I was searching for things, but I got a lot where Dan actually gave me links to.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some of the stuff he gave me links to I couldn't get because you had to join certain societies or something like that, and it wasn't worth my while to be paying to join these organizations.
Mm-hmm.
not for the size of scale that I was operating on. Nowadays, you still have the same problem where some of the more technical information, if you're going to get into it in a big way, there's a lot of stuff that is excellent out there, but not everybody has access to it because you have to be um, a
You have to have
member.
credentials to
Yeah,
log in.
you don't really have to have credentials, but you have to have joined a site, or
Yeah.
in some cases, in a lot of these cases, you have to pay a yearly fee or a monthly fee.
Hmm.
And to me, the internet's nickel and diming people to death with all these
No, I
different
agree.
things you have to pay for.
It's
And
hard. It's hard as someone who's like trying to put on events, upcoming events, like at the MBI workshop and at MACNA, and trying to actually make a website to help people. And I've got Cheryl and Lucy and Dan. Well, you know, Dan will be in and out, but I've got people on board trying to help, and I'm trying to get some bigger people to help. But as someone trying to put out these things, I can tell you, it's really hard to continue putting money into these without finding a way to make it come back. But I do agree with you 100%, and that's why I try really hard with all of my stuff to make it not something that anybody ever, that a person looking for information would ever have to pay for. I think, you know, you can figure it out through sponsorships and stuff like that versus asking somebody to pay. So I hope to never ever do that, because I agree that makes it so much harder, and good information should be shared. And
I
I
think
do agree.
websites though are not the wave of the future. So if you're going into a website, you're going to
Mm,
have to understand that traffic now is not going to be what it used to be.
right.
You can come up with the best one in the world, but right now, as I see it, everybody or anybody that is going to be looking for something like that, they're going social media.
I
And
know.
so the websites, like the traffic on my website now is, um, oh boy, probably 1,000th of what it used to be. And on my website, I pay for the website so that I don't have to have advertising on it. So if somebody goes on it, they don't have to have the advertising. But anymore, it's been years now since I've done much of anything to update, other than maybe throw some pictures of seahorses on. But um,
I know, and it's hard. It really is hard. In trying to do that myself, I learned really quickly how hard it is to try to actually do that. It's not just throwing it together. So I got you. And your site's actually good. If you want to, what is the website, Ray? Because I'd be happy to put a link to it.
well, I don't need a link to it
Okay,
because what I have on there is basically outdated, and most of my website is related to my reef tanks,
gotcha.
which I don't even have now. There's a couple things, a couple pages maybe with the seahorses and seahorse fry, some basic stuff, but nothing really educational. Um, for some people, brine shrimp page is sometimes interesting, but if if you're only going to hatch out brine shrimp and feed the nahui, not grow them out to adult, then like even my brine shrimp page is useless for anybody then.
I think it's great. I remember I've been to it multiple times actually. So you don't give yourself enough credit.
But not very many people will raise the brine shrimp to adult.
Right.
Like
I mean,
even Dan, when he talks about them being large enough, he's talking about juvenile stage.
hmm
And for me, especially, it takes longer to grow them to adult because I'm growing them in temperatures in the 60s. Um, it might get up like this coming weekend. Um, we're looking at humidex figures in the mid 40s,
hmm
and so in the basement there, it might get up around 68, 70, where the brine shrimp are. And years ago, I spent many years growing them with a heater in the darn tank, trying to maintain about 80 because that was pretty well an optimal figure that was given um, for maximum growth. But the problem that I had in doing that is it also produced too much bacteria.
Right.
And I had more frequent crashes. Plus, it took more sterilization before I could feed the brine shrimp to the, well, at first it wasn't the seahorses, it was just my reef tanks. But then when I started into the seahorses, for sure, then I started into a big way in getting the hydrogen peroxide.
I was going to ask if you used peroxide. Cheryl went over that. I haven't gotten those videos done, but she went into that in detail in exactly. So anybody who wants to know what we're talking about, sterilizing your brine shrimp hatchery or your brine shrimp before feeding is what Ray and I were just talking about. And Cheryl has actually already explained this in depth in a very good interview. I just have not gotten the chance to edit it yet. Family crisis. It's been, I'm going to say it one more time and then not apologize because y'all ain't going to make fun of me. But it's just been a really tough couple weeks. But I'm getting back on track. Lucy's helping. Everyone's helping. Thank you. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Ray, but I wanted to say really quick because I'm watching the chat on the side. And first of all, Craig, if you see this later, thank you so much for stopping in. Good luck with your move. Oh, I wanted to say something to somebody else. Hi, KG Tropics. The Salty Reef. As far as super chats, no, my channel is, I think, at 800 subscribers, right beneath there. And what my hope is that once Lucy and I get this going with the having someone every week interview and where I can advertise it in advance the entire week prior, then maybe more people will come, more people will share. I don't think this actually streamed to Facebook. I'm not sure. But halfway through, I think I realized that it wasn't going to Facebook. And honestly, I might back up on the Facebook.
No, it doesn't go on Facebook. I send you a text about this.
Okay. So, well, I'm sorry, Lucy, I didn't see it while we were on. But I'm honestly wondering if we shouldn't, well, I don't know. We'll talk about that later. But the bottom line is, no, the channel's not eligible for super chats. I do have a Streamlab donations type situation. I just haven't advertised it because I wanted to get through this tough time where I didn't have the speakers on or the guests on. Like, I want to feel like I'm giving enough to actually ask somebody to support. So, all that's coming. But thank you so much for asking, and I appreciate that you would even ask. I'm looking into different things, and honestly, it's really just been the entire time a matter of I wanted to make sure that I was providing enough to ever ask for help doing more. But it'll come soon enough. So thank you for asking, and I will put a link to the Streamlabs where you can help, but we'll get into that more later. At this point, I just want people to come, and share. And so I'm so glad you guys do keep coming back, and I hope that we can start providing a scheduled speaker every week. We can still do this fun chatting where everybody joins afterwards, but we'll have someone with actual, precise, real, specific information every week, and I'll not only take questions before, but then I'll ask the questions during, and then give you a chance to ask them after. So that's the goal. But wind twirl, I think you need 1,000. I'm sorry, I didn't mention the criteria, but I'm pretty sure my channel was monetized. They took it away. I didn't cry about it because I think that's stupid. My point was to help people. But yeah, I think you have to have 1,000 subscribers in so many minutes in order to be monetized. And a lot of times, since we're restreaming to Facebook, usually, we didn't today, but usually, people don't think to come over to YouTube. That's fine. I'm just looking at different things. But anybody that's telling people to come to the channel will be great. And I'm telling you guys, next week we'll have a guest, and we will every week from now on. We got going pretty good there, and then crisis occurred, so it just got off track. But now I've got Lucy on board helping, and she has some interesting people that she's going to bring on as guests. I cannot wait. I'm so excited. And we still have to get Colby up here with the sea dragons. So, yeah. 1,000 is what I need. Tell people to join. Tell people to subscribe. Come on. And listen, Ray, I already got you to join, so you don't have to. Don't worry. But
By the way, before I was talking temperatures, so sometimes I was
yes,
like I was talking in the basement, 68 degrees or whatever,
yes,
and then I'm sitting there talking about the temperature, the humidex being 44. I switch back and forth between Celsius and Fahrenheit, and I'm not thinking about other people that don't um, don't recognize Celsius temperatures.
right.
In the States, I don't think anybody uses Celsius other than in the scientific community. So the 44 I was talking was Celsius degrees, not Fahrenheit.
Do you know what that calculates to? Because I'll be honest, I don't use Celsius.
Oh, probably 100. I'm not sure.
Wow.
I
Wow.
know the formula. If you want to convert Celsius to Fahrenheit, you multiply by 9/5 and then add 32. If you want to change from Fahrenheit to Celsius, then you subtract 32 and then multiply by 5/9.
Well, I'm going to ask you that afterwards so I can write it down because I really should be more efficient with that for sure.
One other thing, you were talking about the side panel, but when I clicked on what Lucy, the link Lucy sent me,
mhm.
this came up, but I don't have a side panel now. How do I
Yeah.
get the side panel to show?
Well, you know what, Ray? What we're going to do is I'm going to set some time aside either later or sometime that we're both free, and I'm going to show you how this all works because what my side panel is the same thing. I don't know if you can't see my finger when I go that close. If you look, well, the bottom line is if you open YouTube or when we stream to Facebook, if you open Facebook, then you would see the side panel. You would see the chat, and you would see if I had maybe the screen bigger on the chat's bigger on the screen, you would see it. It's the same thing that's going on the screen. I just see it in a side panel, but I don't have it big enough, and it's hard to read, and I'm trying to figure that out. The reason that I told you to close YouTube and close Facebook and close whatever is because if you have them open, you have to mute them, or else it comes back into the stream as like an echo, and you can hear me talking next. So the way to do it, just very quickly, they had to teach me, so don't feel bad. But
I won't remember anyway. I'm going to have to get things written down so I can put it on my desktop and sit there and refer to it.
Yes, you know what? I'll send you a message.
Yeah, I have mild cognitive impairment, so
sorry.
memory doesn't work well.
Well, I'm just glad you come, so that's all I care about. And
well, I never needed it at all last week. I kept trying, and then it took me a long time tonight. I started before 8 o'clock,
and
I had to cue me in before 8 o'clock. And you know, you saw me when I did finally get on, but it took me a long time, and I have no idea how I finally did
it. Well, you got on right in this time, so
but
yay.
when I did get on, I could hear you talking and Lucy talking, and I had the side panel there. I could see the message, and I could post a message. But once I clicked on the link to go live on here, then I no longer had the side panel. So I figured there has to be some way where I can just click something and
yeah, you shouldn't have had to. You should have just been able to stay right where you were before the go live thing, I think. Oh, you know what? I can show you right now. Sorry, everybody who's watching. I apologize, but Ray, can you see where my arrow's going at all, or no? Can you guys see my screen?
No, I see a black square that says Seahorse, and when you're talking, it shows 3 green dots.
Okay, put your cursor all the way over to the left-hand side of your screen. Does anything pop up?
Yeah, there's a blue box.
The blue box is a chat.
Okay, and then there's a green arrow or a
screen share
box with a white arrow.
Don't hit that unless you want to show me something on your screen. That's screen share.
Then there's some, looks like yellow tags, and then the word showcase pops up.
Right. Now the very first blue box, that's a chat within you. It says you joined it, but that's a chat that only the people in the stream can see. So like right now, me, you, and Lucy are the only ones that can see that chat. However, so I mean, really, honestly, that's probably what you saw before, and that's not the side panel I mean. What if you want to see what people are saying? I'll send you a message so that I can show you how to have YouTube open in a different tab, and you can see what people are saying, but mute it, and then it won't come back. That's all you have to do. So I'll send you a message.
I'll have to get together with you and find this stuff so that when Wednesday comes in a few minutes to 8, then I can sit in there and can read this and know I do this and do this and do this and there. Because until I've done it many, many times, I'm not going to remember.
Sure, no, and you're fine. I don't mind at all. Heck, every time I've had audio problems, so don't feel bad.
For tonight, I'm going to have to sign off now. The rain has stopped, and I couldn't take the dog out for his walk earlier because of the rain. Now I'm going to have to take him out now before it gets any more darker than it is.
Go walk that dog. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your information. I appreciate you.
I'm glad I finally got on.
I'll send you a message to show you how in the future. And next week we'll have a guest, so come back.
I don't know how to join the Seahorse Whisperer group. I go to the page, and there's nothing there to join the group.
There's not a group yet? Yeah, so don't worry. I promise I'm going to send you a message. That should not even be there, to be honest. So it's just, I got started on a lot of things, and then I had a crisis, a family illness that kind of took everything, put everything on hold. So that's why everything got kind of half done. So I'll message you, Ray, and I'll show you everything. Anything you want to know, I'll show you how to do it, okay?
I tried to find out how to message you, and I couldn't figure out how to do that.
Well, I'll message you, and then you can just respond.
I see.
Sound good?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you for coming. Have a great night.
Good night.
Bye. All right. The Salty Reef, the kudas are amazing. I'm working on videos on them. You wouldn't believe it. That's what we started talking about. And Lucy, if you come back at any point and have something to say, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm here, but the kids are super noisy right now.
Hey, kids are kids. You're fine. Just if you have anything you want to come in and say, please feel free. Interrupt as you want. But because Lucy is full-fledged admin of everything Seahorse Whisperer Society, just so y'all know. She's up in this. We'll leave it there. But anyhow, okay, so KG Tropics, welcome. I want to talk to you later because we started talking and I got sidetracked. Thank you for all your help. I want to talk to you some more. And the Salty Reef, no problem about joining late. I was late myself. I almost didn't do it tonight because, as I've said a couple of times now, I want this to be a lot better, and it just got put on hold. But next week we will have a guest on that's going to share information, so it won't just be the same old stuff, me talking. But while I figured I'd show up because I said I'd be here, so I'm here. And very exciting things coming for the MBI workshop, Seahorse and Pipefish meeting, and for the MACNA events. I've got some new people on board, so things are coming together with that. And the Cuda is what you had said. Yes, the Cuda. I'm absolutely in love with them. They are so beautiful. I can't even stand it. And so I'm putting them through quarantine only because that's what I promote, and I want to show how that's done and such. So they are in quarantine currently, but they won't be for long. And they're doing great. They ate 10 seconds out of the bag. And I'll be doing lots of videos on them. And I don't know, I was going to keep this pretty short and sweet. So just to summarize what we were talking about, Ray came in and shared his information. But basically, my whole point tonight was if you had any questions, come in and ask them. Lucy and I were going to talk frequently asked questions, and we kind of got off track. But I was making the point that frequently asked questions can be made now in general in all of these different ways because we have so much information, more information available today than there was 10, 20 years ago. It's just absolutely fascinating how far we've come. I mean, truly. That I can purchase a Cuda seahorse, 2 Cuda seahorses. They're absolutely beautiful. Get them in a day. They eat straight out of the bag. I have no worries that they're going to be sick because they were conditioned and trained and weaned by a professional. Captive breeding is awesome and amazing. And as I said before, that's a big credit to the people who went through dealing with what they had to deal with 10 years ago. There's no wrong answers, but I just think we have it so much easier today because we've got easier to keep seahorses. We've got equipment to help us. We've got people like Ray that'll come in and remind us that variety and quantity in feeding seahorses is extremely important. And, you know, you've got me who's going to keep showing up. All right. Anyways, all right. So the salty reef had to tear his tanks down. Oh, you're moving. Right. You want to do Cudas when you come back. Well, let me know when you come back, hey? A lot of people seem to be moving lately. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's just the time of year or what, but I feel for all of you because I can't imagine. Moving is not on my ever, ever, ever to-do list. I would love to have a bigger house. I would love to have a heated garage or something where I could do seahorse breeding, but I don't ever want to move all these tanks. I'm curious how many tanks you have to move the salty reef because, let's see, I have probably 12 tanks in my house right now. And I'm talking one of them's a 90-gallon, one of them's a 65. I got a lot of water going on. I can't imagine. Oh, you finally bought your first house. Nice. Very, very cool. Congratulations. That's worth the move, of course. Awesome. I'm so happy for you. And I have no doubt that you will get them moved over. Michigan Van says, your seahorses are turning red. Wow. I think you posted on one of my posts, didn't you? Saying that the orange seahorse. Maybe I'm wrong. But I remember seeing that on a post. So very cool. KG Tropics, I will message you as soon as I get off. In fact, and I wanted to mention Wind Twirl. I did see your comments, and I kept trying to mention, but I didn't want to interrupt. So thank you so much for coming. And I'm going to actually scroll back up real quick before I end this tonight. Just make sure that I didn't miss anything I needed to say. I'm just going to say to Tina, I love you. I'm sorry. Message me if I can help in any way. And we'll leave that at that. And Positive Pyramid Programming came in. Thank you for coming. Next week we'll have a guest. So definitely come back and tell your friends. You know, tell your friends to come because that's how we will get to the point where we can have super chats and things. And let's see. And we're going to do some more things too to do with macroalgae. I've been talking a lot with Anne of Ladies Frag Swapping. And she's been helping me work on some different things. And she's going to sponsor the Seahorse Whisperer Society and do some giveaways of macroalgae and help just in general with getting things going. So we're definitely taking this to the next level, people. It's just, I just had a setback, so sorry. But thank you for coming, Michigan Fan, Wind Twirl, Lucy, of course, KG Tropics, was talking shrimp. I'm sorry. I wish you could have come in and showed how your shrimp are doing. And Michigan Fan, you got my fingers crossed for absolute sure. I saw you said you're more prepared this time. I'm going to end the stream tonight, but I'd love to hear more about how you prepared and what you got going on. But crossed fingers for your babies to come tonight. And Rip, thank you for coming. We'll do more next week. And Lucy, if you have nothing else, I'm going to go ahead and end the stream tonight. Yeah. We wanted to do a quick one. If you have anything to say, feel free. If not, we'll be back next week with a guest. Lucy, you got anything you want to say?
Nothing more to say.
Okay. Just, we're all glad we got captive bred seahorses that are easier to keep today. And if you have any questions, please feel free to message me or message Lucy. If you can't get to the stream in time, send us a message on Facebook or even on a comment on a video, and we will get back to you. And anything you want us to cover or anyone you want us to bring on, we'll do it and we'll talk. So, and you can come on. So, all right, I'm going to stop. Salty Reef, thank you for coming. Good night. And I can't read that, but all right. So I'm going to say thank you all for coming. Hope your Wednesday was much better than mine. Here's to good Wednesdays for all of us to come. Happy Wine Wednesday. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye, Liz.